let's be clear about something right up front. What we saw happen to silver, that wasn't your typical market crash. This wasn't an accident. This was an execution. So today, we're not just going to be looking at a price chart. We're going to treat this like a crime scene, because all the evidence, it points to something deliberate.
Think about that number, 37%, wiped out in just a few hours. Silver goes from $121 all the way down to $75. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in value just gone. But you know what's really crazy? The most shocking number here isn't the 37%. It's the number of official reasons given for why it happened. And that number is a big, fat zero. And it's worth noting, right? On the day this all went down, nothing happened. No major war broke out, no new pandemic, no big bank went under. The news was quiet, completely silent. And that, right there, is what should make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Because when there's no obvious reason in the headlines, that's when you've got to start looking for fingerprints on the system itself. So let's dig in. What really happened here?
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we can't just focus on the day of the crash itself. No, the real clues, they're hidden in the weeks leading up to it, because that's where you find the weapon. It's an invisible weapon, sure, but it's the one they used to pull the trigger. So check this out. The truth is often hidden behind the numbers, and the pattern here is, well, it's impossible to ignore. As silver's price started to really take off, the CME group, that's the exchange that basically runs the futures market, they started tightening the screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 separate margin hikes in just 6 weeks. Now, each one might look small, 10% here, 25% there, but add it all up, that's an 80% increase in the amount of cold, hard cash a trader needed just to stay in the game. So what does that actually mean for the folks with skin in the game?
Okay, so what is margin? Put simply, it's like a security deposit on a trade. Here's an analogy for you. Imagine your landlord calls you up out of the blue and says, hey, your rent just went up by 80%, and I need the difference in cash by the end of the day, or you're out. That's exactly the kind of call thousands of silver traders all got at the very same time. And that phone call kicks off this perfect chain reaction. This is the key. You have to understand, this wasn't people panicking and selling because they got scared. No. This was an engineered cascade. A wave of forced liquidations. The traders themselves weren't even hitting the sell button. The system was doing it for them automatically. And that created this massive, totally artificial tsunami of supply that just completely drowned the market. So this whole mechanism, it's brutally effective, right? Almost too effective. Which kind of makes you wonder, was this just a one-off thing, a freak accident? Or is this a tactic they've used before? Well, the answer to that question opens up a whole different can of worms. Take a look at this. The pattern is just, it's right there in black and white. It's undeniable. 1980, 2011, and now today, 3 times in the last half century. And every single time, it's the same story. Silver starts a massive rally, it looks unstoppable, and then bam, the exchanges pull out the exact same weapon. Either they jack up the margins through the roof, or, like back in 1980, they just straight up ban leverage altogether. And the result? The exact same, every single time. A total catastrophic price collapse. You know the saying, right? Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. This isn't just risk management, folks. This is a playbook. It's a system that's been put in place with one goal, to put a ceiling on the price of silver anytime it looks like it's about to break free. Which leads us to the real billion-dollar question. Why? Why on earth would they go to these incredible lengths to keep the price of this one metal down? Well, it turns out the answer has almost nothing to do with silver itself, and it has everything to do with the one thing a rising silver price threatens to expose. We're talking about defending the US dollar's position as the king of the global financial system. And it's really worth noting that the system is already showing cracks. The dollar's share of global reserves? It's down to 58%. That's the lowest it's been in almost 3 decades. So the very foundation of America's financial power is shaky. And when a real physical asset like silver starts to skyrocket in price, well, that acts like a giant warning flare, signaling to the rest of the world that confidence in paper money is starting to crumble. And if you want to see the truth that's hiding behind the numbers, look no further. For the first time in modern history, central banks around the world now hold more of their reserves in physical gold than they do in US Treasury bonds. Just let that sink in for a second. The biggest, most powerful financial players on the planet are now placing more trust in a lump of physical metal than they are in America's promise to pay back its debts. That's a huge shift. So what you're seeing is the stage being set for a major financial conflict. You've got two completely different strategies. On one side, you have the US system, which needs cheap metals and for everyone to keep believing in its paper dollars and bonds. On the other side, you've got China, which has been playing the long game, quietly securing control over the physical supply and refining of these exact same metals. So, when the West engineers a paper price crash, China just smiles, says thank you for the sale, and scoops up the real physical stuff at a huge discount.
Hey, if you're getting some value out of this breakdown, do me a quick favor and hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to see it, and definitely subscribe so you don't miss what we've got coming up next.
All right, this brings us to what might be the most counterintuitive aha moment of this whole story. And that's the giant, ever-widening gap between the fake price you see on your computer screen and the actual physical reality on the ground. I mean, this is really the heart of the paradox, isn't it? While the paper price is getting hammered, the physical market is screaming shortage. Just think about this for a second. We've had a supply deficit for 5 straight years. Demand from industries like solar, EVs, and AI is absolutely exploding. Mints were literally halting sales because they couldn't keep up with demand, and that was before this so-called crash. And then right in the middle of it all, buyers swooped in and drained 27 tons of physical silver out of the Shanghai vaults in one day. The fundamentals aren't just disconnected from the price, they're living on a completely different planet. And really, what it all boils down to is this. There are 2 different silver markets. There's the paper market, full of futures contracts that can be created out of thin air with a keystroke and destroyed just as easily with a rule change. And then there's the market for the real deal, the actual physical metal you can hold in your hand. And at the end of the day, you can't fake physical reality. Not forever, anyway. So when you step back and look at all the evidence we've laid out, it becomes pretty clear. There are 2 very different games being played here. One is a short-term game. It's all about managing prices and controlling what people believe. The other, that's the long game. And it's all about accumulating the physical asset. Here's a thought for you. You just don't fight this hard to hold something down if it doesn't matter. The truth is, the incredible force and the fact that they keep repeating these takedowns, that, ironically, is the best proof we have of just how strategically important silver really is. The ferocity of the attack tells you everything you need to know about the value of the target. And so that leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. If silver is truly as insignificant as they say, just some old industrial metal, a barbarous relic, then why on earth do they roll out the same heavy artillery to crush it every single time it poses a threat to the system? Why run the same playbook for 50 years? I'll leave you to think about that one.